We're continuing our close-up look at the New York Giants 2022 draft picks. On today's show, we're going to speak with Rich Bradshaw, who is the host of LockedOn Sun Devils, about defensive tackle DJ Davidson. That's coming up next on the LockedOn Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm Patricia Traina, happy to have you with us as always, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, or if you're watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to our channel, click that little bell so you get notifications, and help us grow our subscribers so that we can get to 5,000, get to that fan giveaway that I have been promising. It's going to be something for 5 people chosen at random once we hit 5,000. So fingers crossed that we're able to do that sooner than later. So happy again to have you with us. And on today's show, as I continue our look at the Giants 2022 draft picks, we have Richie Bradshaw. He is the host of LockedOn Sun Devils. So that means that he's going to talk about Arizona State defensive lineman DJ Davidson. DJ Davidson was chosen with the second of the fifth round picks the Giants have, pick number 147 overall. Richie, first, thank you so much for coming on the program with me. Happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. When you reached out to me, I was really excited to talk about all my Arizona State guys. So super pumped for that.
Yeah, and I not sure. I know there's been some guys that have been mentioned, but I'll look at the UDFAs in just a moment. But let's start with Davidson. Give us an overview about him. What does he bring to the table? Did he play in Arizona State's defense? And where do you think he might be a fit?
Well, he's definitely like a traditional nose tackle for you guys. And I know just over the years of following the NFL, it seems like the Giants have valued big defensive tackles. We've seen B.J. Hill, Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson over the last like 5 to 10-ish years, and they love investing in those positions and getting those big guys. So Davidson definitely fits the mold of what they seem to be looking for. He's a big gap eater. He's somebody who he's not going to blow up the box score. He's not going to be a 10-sack guy. He's not going to be a 100-tackle guy. But what he is going to do is he's going to take on multiple blocks, and he's going to make life a lot easier for the linebackers to come down and make plays without worrying about getting their jersey tugged on. So he's going to keep those numbers clean for them. So I like the ability that he brings to just be a disruptor on the defensive line. I like his fit with the Giants, and I think that he could get some pretty solid playing time early on.
All right, so DJ Davidson stands 6'3", 327 pounds, 10 1/8 inch hands and 33-inch arms, according to the combine measurements. Where did he play on that defensive line in Arizona State? Was he primarily a nose? Did he move around and maybe move out to the 3 or the 5 technique, or did he have a certain niche?
He was definitely like a shade nose tackle, so he typically would line up over the center, but they did like to get a little creative with him and move him along the interior, but he definitely belongs in the interior as a penetrating kind of defensive tackle.
Okay. And just for those who aren't familiar with Arizona State and the type of defense they ran, what did they run there, and what did they primarily ask their interior defensive linemen to do?
They were definitely like a multi-front kind of defense, and they love to kind of flex everything around. They definitely preferred their edge rushers to have a hand down in the dirt. So primarily more of a 4-3 defense than anything else. But where Davidson was asked to play was it was in the inside. That was his bread and butter. That's what they asked him to do. That's what he was best at doing. So they wanted him to eat up guys, make the lanes easier for the linebackers to glide through. And Arizona State does have good linebackers, so everything worked out very, very well.
Now, this was a young man, correct me if I'm wrong, he had an injury, I think it was his leg as a freshman, and he actually ended up losing some weight while he rehabbed that injury, and that helped him, did it not?
Yeah, no, he definitely was one of those guys who aged like a fine wine. So as the years progressed for him, he just got better and better at honing his craft, and eventually turned into an NFL caliber player.
And he's primarily, I guess, a run stopper. So he's going to be a two down type of defensive lineman, a plugger, or I guess, or a penetrator, or both.
Definitely going to be somebody who's going to be eating up blocks instead of racking up the sacks. Like I said, he's not going to be a 10 sack guy. If he is, then holy cow, you guys were able to really develop him into something amazing. But he definitely is going to start his career as a two down kind of guy. But you could be able to develop him. And like I mentioned earlier, with the Giants favoring their defensive linemen like that, I think that that's a good team to develop a guy like DJ Davidson. So I'm excited for him, not only because he's a Sun Devil, but I do love the fit that he was able to find himself in.
Yeah. Now he has pretty good upper body strength. He can handle one-on-one blocking, the double team blocking, obviously a challenge for anybody. Let's talk about some of his technique, what you see with him. How is he in terms of his hand placement, his hand usage, getting guys off of him so that he can, continue pushing the pocket and maybe even getting into the backfield in some sorts?
Well, I think that he has a good understanding of leverage and hand placement, which is very, very important. So, funny enough, when I played football when I was a kid, I was like a three technique defensive tackle at a whopping 101 pounds. So, if there's one thing that I feel I have a good understanding of, it's defensive line, because I actually did pay enough attention, and it feels like Davidson understands what his assignment is. Like I said, he understands the leverage, the hand placement, how to adjust himself, this, that, and the other. So I think that he's a very smart and tactful kind of guy. It's just going to be a matter of continuing to develop his functional strength, because he's a big, strong dude, but being able to develop it into consistent every down kind of play for him. But I think that he's got that potential to be a very good starting nose tackle early on in his career. So, and again, for like the 10th time I've mentioned this, the Giants love developing defensive linemen. And I think that he could be another one of those guys that they really just kind of fall in love with.
All right, Giant fans, more still to come on today's Locked On Giants podcast. But first, imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that it was only 150 calories and had 16 grams of protein. That is what it's like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. I just received my birthday cake puffs several days ago. I've had a couple of them since, and I have never tasted anything as good as those puffs. They're available right now, and we can't promise they will be there tomorrow. So go get them today at built.com. The birthday cake puffs taste just like a fresh slice of birthday cake, and they melt in your mouth. There's no chalky taste, no chemical taste. It's not too sweet. It's really good. It's like eating a candy bar, but without the calories, without the sugar, and without the guilt. So again, this limited time flavor is an amazing option if you're looking to eat healthy while also indulging your sweet tooth. All Built Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate, and that means that you can indulge to your heart's content without feeling guilty. And best of all, the Built Puffs are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides a ton of health benefits. So go to built.com today to get your birthday cake puffs now and use the promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your first order. Again, that's built.com to get 15% off your first order when you use the promo code LOCKed15. All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's LockedOn Giants podcast. But first, Catalyst Power partners with you or your trusted energy consultant to produce a power supply that fits your business and your market risk tolerance. They have a suite of options customizable to your business's needs, including options that bundle with or focus on renewable energy. And right now in New York, Catalyst Power is offering an on-site solar solution for your business that requires no installation, maintenance, or material costs. That's right. Absolutely no capital expense costs for you. Plus, qualified businesses could be eligible for up to 6 months of at-cost energy supply from Catalyst Power. Visit catalystpower.com/LockedOnGiants to learn more. What are some of the things in his game that right now you would say he probably needs to really sharpen up in order to be a contributor at the NFL level?
I think converting power to speed, most of the time you hear speed to power, but I think you want to see him be able to get off a little bit quicker and turn into one of those guys who can actually like just really disrupt earlier on. He's a strong dude. I think that he's got the potential to hold down his side of wherever he's rushing. He's not a guy that's going to get pancaked very often, but you do want to be able to see him be a little quicker than he is off the snap. And I think that he's one of those guys who is never going to be like an Aaron Donald kind of speed, which, for being honest, that's not a lot of guys. But he's got to work on a little bit more nimbleness on his feet and being able to move around more.
What about, does he keep his head up when he's tracking down running backs? I think I had seen something where sometimes he missed out on some tackles, and I'm just wondering is he ducking his head or is he just taking bad angles when trying to chase down a guy?
I think he's just more worried about like eating up gaps than he is actually trying to find the football, which can be good, but also obviously can be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like I said, he's not going to be someone who blows up the box score and the stat sheet, but that could also be not a great thing because I feel like he is primarily worried about the first assignment instead of trying to go step by step on diagnosing and breaking down a play.
So he's not going to be a guy you think that they're going to ask to surf the line. He's going to primarily stay in one general area and just try to, eat up the blocks.
Yeah, I definitely think that at least early on, that should be where you play him, is just ask him to do what he's good at and slowly get him into more of his comfort zone and figure out his biggest strengths.
Okay. Now, I know Antonio Pierce was a coach out there, former Giants linebacker, probably one of the smartest defensive players I've ever come across in the 30-some-odd years that I've covered the Giants. What are some of the things that you think Pierce was able to work with him, Davidson, and just, can you talk a little bit about that relationship, what you know about that relationship, and if Pierce had anything to say to him, before he left, obviously, to help get this young man ready for the NFL?
Well, I couldn't tell you about any like personal relationships that they had between each other. Between each other. What I can tell you is that a lot of guys loved the message that Antonio Pierce was delivering to them, and you had a big community of brotherhood and just relationships among all the defensive players together. There was good chemistry among all the guys, and Davidson was one of those players. So I think that Pierce was able to set him up for success in order for him to find an NFL opportunity. So what's interesting to me is going into the year, Davidson was not even relatively one of the guys that we were talking about NFL draft prospect wise. He has a good season. He ends up going to the what's it called? The East West Shrine Bowl. And my former co-host, me and Connor Drios, were sitting there and we were like, oh, interesting. Good for DJ. And then Davidson gets a combine invite and we're like, okay, the NFL is really high on Davidson. Like we gotta really go and reevaluate. And I think what the biggest reason for all of this is because Pierce was able to take what he saw with Davidson and the potential and continue developing him into what ended up becoming a 5th round pick, which is a pretty good pick for a 2 down player who needs a lot more refining in his skill set. But I think that he is a very good player. I think he's a stud. I think the potential is there for him to be a very disruptive, powerful nose tackle. And a lot of that goes to Antonio Pierce, and the credit to him.
All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's Locked On Giants podcast. But first, BetOnline.net is the only place that offers the best information on the latest odds, contests, and player props for all your sports betting needs. No matter what sport you're into, BetOnline.net has you covered. Plus, they offer everything you need to know for live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head on over to BetOnline.net today to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. What's something about DJ that through your experiences talking with him, getting to know him, maybe what you know of him, what's something about him as a person that you think is important that's going to breed success for him at the next level?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to develop a personal relationship with him, but what I can tell you is that this is a very personable guy. He's a big friendly giant. And funny enough, he's going to the Giants, so there you go. But he's a big old teddy bear. He's not a mean dude. He's a big lover rather than a fighter, except for the 60 minutes that he's on the field. He's a very genuine young man. He's that guy you would want your daughter to bring him home to introduce you to the family. Like he's the ideal guy to take your daughter out to her first prom when she's in high school. He's a good kid. And I think that he's a dedicated kid. You're not going to see him too busy playing Call of Duty Warzone instead of sitting in the gym and actually trying to get better. He's going to be in the playbook. He's going to be trying to hone his craft and become a better player. This is a high character guy. So I would be excited about DJ Davidson, but call me biased if you have to.
That's okay. I mean, look, we're all biased to a certain degree with our players. And look, the Giants don't bring in, at least I don't think they're going to bring in somebody who's, more interested in playing video games or, engaging in, less savory activities, if you know what I mean. I think they
Right.
want to bring in leaders. Different people lead in different ways, obviously, and they just want to build that new culture under head coach Brian Dable as best as they can, because, there's much to be said about culture. What can you tell us about DJ's football acumen? Is he a smart player, a guy who picks stuff up quickly, or what kind of guy is he?
Yeah, I think he's dedicated to becoming better and better in his craft. I think he got better with each year. There's definitely a lot of room to grow, but a lot of that is because of the position he plays. He's not a 3 down guy. He's somebody who's asked to do not so much the bare minimum, but what he's good at is what he's asked to do. He's never really been asked to get out of his comfort zone and become better at different tasks. I wouldn't put it out of his realm of possibilities. It's just not something that has been asked of him before. But he is somebody who's good at what he does.
I like to ask this question every so often, but because everybody, I believe, brings a unique something to whatever job they're asked to do. What's the one thing that you feel is irreplaceable about DJ Davidson for the Arizona State football team?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a lot of good things that he ended up bringing to this program. I think the biggest thing was the selflessness. Is he wasn't worried about being the big sack guy. He wasn't worried about being the face of the defense, to the point where I feel like a lot of casual Sun Devils fans might not have even known who DJ Davidson was, because he wasn't the star linebacker. He wasn't the top tier corner. He wasn't the quarterback. He wasn't the 1,000-yard running back. He was the defensive lineman who just went in there, did the dirty work for everybody else. So I think this is a guy who is definitely team first mentality. And that's got to be one of the most attractive traits that you can have for an NFL team. Is you don't want that dude who's more worried about the limelight, like Antonio Brown, than you are trying to find a guy who's more about the team than he is anybody else. So of all the traits, and I know this isn't exactly something that translates onto the football field, but this is definitely a guy who you want to build your team around. I think that he could develop into a strong leader as well. So, in an ideal world, I think this is a player who becomes a vocal leader in your locker room and somebody that can rally the troops.
Sounds like the perfect guy for this new culture that is being built. And again, all the Giant draft picks, they went for a certain type. Not only do they have to be good football players, they have to be good people. They have to be quick learners. They have to be willing to be selfless, check the ego at the door, and just be, know their place, carve out their own little niche within the family, if you will, and do the best they can with it. So it sounds like the Giants got themselves a really good one in DJ Davidson. Richie, really appreciate the insight. This was great. I love getting to know about these young men. I do appreciate you coming on. And again, folks, you can find Richie. I'll put his Twitter handle. Actually, you can see his Twitter handle on the screen. He is the host of the LockedOn Sun Devils podcast. Check his podcast out. Check out all our college podcasts. Those folks do a fantastic job. They are so full of knowledge. And if you want to get a jump start on some of these draft prospects for 2023, they're the people you want to check in with because they will be talking about them. Richie, again, thank you for coming on with me. Giant fans, thank you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day, or if watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. We will have plenty more coming up on the LockedOn Giants podcast as we continue to break down the Giants draft picks, the mini camps, the OTAs are coming up. So much is going on before we take our annual summer break. Hope you will be with us. Until then, everybody, have a fantastic one.